$1,500. We offered signing incentives for new teachers up to $5,000 for veteran teachers earlier in the year, and we continue to offer $2,000 signing incentives through the end of August. We've been hosting and will continue to host local job fairs and hiring events, adding to the dozens of trips that our recruiters take across the country every year. We pay critical shortage stipends to teachers in high-need areas like math, science, special education, bilingual education, as well as counselors, social workers, nurses, and transportation staff. We're welcoming almost 100 international candidates with certification from their home countries to teach in critical shortage areas this year. And we have an alternative certification program which we made free to recruit teachers from other professions. So people who make a career switch can earn their certification without any cost while becoming a teacher in HISD. After all of these things, in any year, in any district, schools open with some number of teacher vacancies, and we know on the 22nd they will have some vacancies. We're actively working with our principals to prepare to plan coverage for those cases. Most of our schools have additional certified staff, teachers performing other duties outside of the classrooms in their buildings, and our principals in some cases will assign those other certified staff to serve students in classes where there's a vacancy. And we'll also utilize long-term substitutes, prioritizing our long-term substitutes who actually hold certification to work as a dedicated substitute at the beginning of the school year in those cases where we anticipate a potential vacancy. And of course, meanwhile, we'll continue hiring. We're taking a long-term approach to staffing our classes with excellent teachers, and our efforts will not stop when school begins on August 22nd. Thank you.
Thank you, Chief Grant Skinner. Of course, he mentioned on the heels of a pandemic, which I think is something that excites everybody in the room. But even though we are on the heels of the pandemic, we're still paying close attention to the health and safety matters of our county, of our city, of our state, and our country. So at this time, I'd like to invite Dr. Candace Casella to the microphone to provide a health and safety update.
Thank you, Superintendent House. Good afternoon, everyone. I'm Candace Castillo. I'm the Executive Officer of Student Support Services here in HISD. And we are excited and expecting our families and our students back on Monday, August 22nd. We know that right now there is a lot of different headlines. We continue to be on a pandemic, and that means that we still also are dealing now with the new monkeypox or the rise of monkeypox cases. So I want to start by reassuring our families that the district has taken and continues to take steps to ensure that we are going to be preventing as much as possible any type of spread. We are continuously working with our local health agencies, including the Houston Health Department, to train our nurses, to ensure that we have best practices in place and that we have the appropriate protocols in place, as well as in the event that this new communicable disease will get higher than what it is right now. We are going to continue using the cleaning protocols that we have been using since the pandemic, which means that we are using hospital-grade products to clean all of our facilities. Our facilities are clean consistently throughout the day, especially those areas that are considered high-touch surfaces, so to ensure that, again, our students and our staff remains clean, remain safe with areas that are clean consistently. As you all know, since the spring of 2022, we have updated our COVID-19 specific protocols. That means that since the spring, we have no longer required masks to be mandatory. That's going to continue. Our students and families and our staff will have the option to wear a mask if that's what they need. We do highly encourage anyone that needs any additional layer of protection to wear a mask when needed and where needed. They have that option, and we look forward for them to make the decision that best suits their case. We also want to stress with our families the importance of talking to our kids about hygiene protocols. Hygiene etiquette is going to become more important, especially again we're continue battling COVID and then now monkeypox. So we want our families to understand what the best prevention measures are, and so ensuring that our children understand that at this time we're not encouraging or we don't want them to be sharing food or drinks. We want them to, as much as possible, be able to wash or sanitize their hands. Our campuses are going to continue having hand sanitizer stations, so they're going to have access to that, and of course our families are able to provide any additional type of protection they feel their student may need. We also want to encourage our families to understand what the symptoms are, so they are talking to their children, so the children can tell them if they're feeling any kind of way. We don't minimize those, and families can seek the help that they need. And the other piece that we want to also ensure that families are being very proactive with is washing of clothes, beddings, towels, and not sharing any of that among other groups that are outside their households, so that our kids, again, can remain safe. And most importantly, again, we want our families to be monitoring for symptoms. Symptoms can, sometimes be very similar among different diseases, so we just want, again, enforce that they're not minimizing any kinds of symptoms. We encourage families to keep kids home when they are sick or they are presenting symptoms of any communicable disease, so we can ensure that the rest of our community are also staying safe or we're preventing any type of spread. As we know, the best way to protect ourselves of communicable disease, besides prevention measures that we can take, vaccination is one of them. We are continuously working, again, with the health department and other partners to offer vaccine clinics throughout our communities. We're also going to be offering COVID-19 testing the weekend before school starts, and then the following weekend open to the community as well. So we want to ensure that we're bringing those preventive measures that they can leverage and taking advantage of if that's something that they need. But again, monitoring symptoms, getting vaccinated if they are able to get vaccinated is going to be something that's going to be prevention in the long term, so we encourage to do that. And if they have any questions about testing or vaccination, they can always check the website or contact their schools. Every school is hosting different type of back to school events, and they're having a lot of these preventive measures against communicable disease available. Thank you so much.
Thank you, Dr. Costello. So for the last 20 minutes, you guys have received quite a bit of information, but we'd like to open up for just a few questions before we conclude the press conference.
Superintendent, the board item that you mentioned that's going to be up for a vote tomorrow, does that include the 200 rifles and ballistic shields for all HISD officers?
That is correct, absolutely.
And if approved, how soon could those arrive?
I can't give you a particular date, but we would be moving with our procurement department as soon as possible to get those officers outfitted ASAP.
My question is also the same. How many items are you presenting tomorrow to the school board to improve the safety of the students?
There are a few different items. I don't have those that agenda item, but it is public records, and it's on our website to take a look at exactly what those items are.
Can you speak a little bit more about how that equipment would be used in training? Just because I think a lot of parents were taken aback to hear that HISD schools are not prepared for an active shooting.
And I want to be clear about what that looks like, because it was, in my opinion, taken a little bit out of context. I think there's very few school districts that are prepared for an active shooter with an automatic weapon. That's a very different type of perpetrator. So if you look at the difference between Santa Fe, the difference between Uvalde, Santa Fe, there was not a fully automatic weapon utilized. There was less lives that were lost. Uvalde, unfortunately, there was a fully automatic weapon used. So there are very few school system ISD police departments that are prepared at that level. But my belief is that our officers, our students, our community, our staff deserves the best preparation as we look forward to the future.
So to be clear, if you have this equipment, would you consider yourselves and this district prepared?
I would definitely see that we would be as prepared as one can be. I think it's about not only protecting, but being ready for the inevitable, hoping that the inevitable doesn't occur.
I was going to ask a question to Chief Lopez in
Sure,
Spanish.
absolutely.
You could have asked me in Spanish. I might not have been able to answer you, but
Chief López, mencionaba lo que decía el superintendente hace unas semanas, se decía no estaban preparados. El día de mañana van a presentar unas propuestas a la mesa directiva del distrito escolar. ¿Qué es lo que ustedes están pidiendo para estar preparados? Y también mencionaba más temprano de que el distrito escolar independiente de Houston son los que van a estar actuando directamente, lidiando con alguna situación de emergencia.
Voy a ser claro, cuando una cosa pasa en la escuela, los oficiales de HISD vamos a responder. Y estamos preparados a responder, pero necesitamos el equipo para hacer un atento más mejor, sin un rifle, sin los shields y el equipo que necesitamos para romper las puertas, para abrir las ventanas. Eso es lo que necesitamos. Y necesitamos el equipo y entrenamiento para hacer esas cosas.
¿Me puede explicar qué están pidiendo? ¿Cuál es la petición a la mesa directiva?
Son las cosas que están en la agenda que pueden mirar online. Son rifles, shields balísticos, herramientas para abrir las puertas, cosas así, varias cosas.
Si se aprueba esto, ¿cuándo van a estar utilizándolas? ¿Las van a tener listas para cuando empiece el ciclo escolar?
Va a tener como unos, no sé cuánto tiempo, pues depende en el proceso cuando las personas que nos vamos a comprar los rifles y el equipo, depende cómo está el supply chain. No va a ser como la semana que viene, va a ser un poquito tiempo.
Last week, Mayor Turner had mentioned he was planning on speaking with you, and he said the city was willing to offer resources if needed to HISD. Has that conversation happened? And if
So the mayor and I speak quite often, and we have communicated in the last week, but we communicate quite often. And the mayor, and it's not just the city. I want to be clear about that. It's been the consul, sheriff's department, all of the first responders, the fire. They have all have a vested interest in our children. And we've been very pleased with what that communication looks like, and we believe that communication will definitely be followed up with action if and when there is a situation that we need them.
have they offered any kind of specific resources, though, at this point?
Yes, Chief has worked very closely with HPD and other first responders. A lot of people didn't know it, and we try to keep certain things close to the vest. In terms of what we share, we don't want to share too much information to become vulnerable. But what I will say is that we will continue to work very close with them to ensure that the safety and security of our students and staff is A1.
I wanted to also ask about the COVID sick leave policy. I know there have been concerns that teachers could be coming to work sick now that y'all are doing away with the specific COVID sick leave, and also the idea of teachers staying employed when you have staffing issues and you get rid of that sick leave. Kind of what comes next with that?
I think we're just in a different place. If you look at the COVID leave policies across the state and across the country, most people are moving in this direction. We feel like with vaccines available, with masking still optional, that it puts us in a very different place. So we don't expect to have major issues in reference to this shift, but we're looking forward to making whatever modifications along the way that we need to. But we feel very good about where we are and the decisions that we've made thus far.
And speaking of staffing, so I know that last year there was a real push to make sure that certified teachers were teaching these core subjects. Where are y'all on that process this year?
It's no different. Everyone wants a certified teacher in front of their child or in front of a classroom on the first day of school. As Chief Grant Skinner indicated, 95% of our classrooms will have that certified teacher, and we'll continue to work. The data is changing every day as we continue to process and hire individuals to be a part of HISD. I think the compensation package was a major part of that. Knowing that over 10,000 teachers are ready and will be ready to go on that first day, I think is extremely important. We also have the option, and have put this out to employees in this building that would like to volunteer. Last year we deployed them and put them out there, but this year we're going to do more of a a volunteer basis of individuals that work at Hattie Mae that would like to go out and volunteer to get the year started.
Is there any trends in the vacancy, are any grade levels being affected more so than others, or geographic regions? Will some campuses bear a bigger part of the brunt?
We had some priority areas, and I'll let Chief Grant Skinner talk a little bit about those. Of course, we sunsetted Achieve 180, and we're focusing on transformation schools right now. The majority, I think, of our transformation schools are filled. As we look at our principal-based vacancies as well, the majority of those filled. There may be one principal vacancy going into the start of next week, and I think we'll have that solidified, if not an interim, before that time. But I don't know if there are any major trends by grade level or by race or particular area of town. I think we've done a solid job to really close the gaps that we needed to. Anything else, Chief Grant Skinner, that you want to share?
I have a question for Selena. Candice Castillo, en español.
Sí, claro.
Si me pudiera explicar de qué manera el distrito escolar se está preparando ante este brote de la viruela del mono, ¿están tomando algunos protocolos o van a tomar algunos protocolos específicos para el inicio?
Sí, nosotros tenemos protocolos ya establecidos para cualquier tipo de enfermedad que se considera una enfermedad infecciosa con propagación rápida, y la viruela del mono no es distinta a lo que tenemos. Entonces nosotros seguimos trabajando con las agencias de salud locales, incluyendo el Departamento de Salud de la ciudad de Houston. Mañana nuestras enfermeras van a estar recibiendo entrenamiento específico de cómo monitorear qué clases de síntomas hay que ponerle más cuidado. Nuevamente, no solamente las familias, a los estudiantes, pero también todos nosotros tenemos que hacer nuestra parte en cuanto veamos o sintamos algún tipo de dolencia, no minimizarla y buscar el cuidado propicio para ello. Entonces, nosotros seguimos constantemente monitoreando, esperando los nuevos desarrollos que se den, tanto información de la agencia, de la CDC, y a partir de allí, si hay que modificar algo, nosotros tomamos esos pasos.
We got time for two more questions, y'all.
As far as the safety goes, and speaking with parents, they're happy about the idea that you guys might get more of the equipment if that vote passes tomorrow. But they also had some concerns about just the everyday safety and some of the facilities safety. Has there been any changes to the school's physical structure or police staffing on campuses since last school year?
Yeah, I think before you came in, we talked a little bit about some of the fencing and other upgrades, cameras over the course of the summer. But I think one of the things that we really have to understand is the vigilance around individuals being aware. It is so important to go along with the training that we focused on to ensure that our campus-based security teams are up to speed on the necessary training, paying close attention to what happens on a daily basis. And I'm very confident that we've made aware all of the individuals in our school district, from principals to teachers to different committees, that they're paying very close attention to anything that would be considered out of the ordinary from a security standpoint.
What would you say is the biggest takeaway that really comes out of what happened in Uvalde? I know you had said that y'all had spent the summer really studying what happened there.
So unfortunately, it's not. It's very unfortunate what happened in Uvalde. But before Uvalde, there were several other incidents across the country. In 2012, 2013, you had Sandy Hook, which was a major incident. So we've learned from all of these incidents. And one of our board members or trustees, really said something that I think was impactful. And Trustee Hernandez indicated that she wanted to make sure that this purchase or these items that we're asking the board to approve were not emotional ask. And I think that's a very fair statement because it's not an emotional ask from our standpoint. We feel like that if we can be as prepared as possible for the worst case scenario, that's where we want to be. We want to ensure that we make certain that if there's an opportunity to subsidize or minimize the loss of life in the worst case situation, that's exactly what we want to do. So we've learned along the way in these several different incidents very unfortunate incidents over the course of time. Want to say this, just to thank each and every one of you for being here this evening. We look forward to seeing you at some of our sites as we kick off the 2022-23 school year and do it in a positive manner. You guys have a great one.